what would you say to a first-time off-roader getting on the WR450?
Rethink your life plan. Yeah, make sure your life insurance is paid up.
So what was it that drew you into dual sport or adventure riding? For me, it was my buddy Chaz, tossing me the keys to his dual-sported WR450f to attend a weekend road and trail rally with my teenage son. Now, I wasn't exactly new to off-road riding. I'd had some dirt bikes and even an old KE100 enduro as a kid, and several street bikes over the years. But this was the first big bore off-roader I had ridden since my brief stint as a test rider for Cannondale back in the days of their ill-fated moto division. Years of work responsibilities and raising kids had put recreational purchases at the bottom of my list of priorities, but this weekend changed that. I left that rally with a better relationship with my youngest child, a head full of amazing memories with friends old and new, and a huge smile on my face. So now I've got to buy a new WR450, right? Hold up a sec. Not only do I not trust myself to ride responsibly with that kind of power on hand, I'm not sure I want something with maintenance intervals listed in hours. Besides, simple and reliable are my highest priorities. A little internet research and I began to believe that the legendary Suzuki DRZ 400 might just be the perfect blend of all my top criteria. I had taken one for a quick ride about a year earlier and remembered that it seemed pretty impressive. But up against the memory of that amazing weekend fling with the incredible WR, would I be disappointed if I settled for something less than a fire-breathing, race-bred trail monster? Surely someone's done a YouTube comparison, right? Well, not really. There are a couple rambling commentaries with no really helpful comparisons. Sure, there were some opinions and even some roll-on tests and drag race vids, but I expected that the DRZ wouldn't hang with the WR in an all-out race environment. What I wanted to know was how the two bikes compared in a more relaxed trail riding role, which is what I expected to do most with my new bike. I never did find a really good comparison, but I went ahead and bought a new DRZ, expecting that I could sell it after a few seasons if I was not completely satisfied. And one day, after riding my new Suzuki for about 6 months, I had a chance to compare them for myself.
All right, so I'm Chris, and this is my buddy Chaz. I own a 2022 DRZ 400S, currently almost completely stock. I did put a smaller front sprocket on. I went down one tooth in the front, and I exchanged the tires, the stock tires, for a set of Pirelli MP22s. Apart from that, like, it's got some doodads on it, but functionally completely stock. Chaz, what is it that you're riding here?
This is a 2005 Yamaha WR450 that has been plated up and dual-sported. Less than stock. It has a lowering link, Fisher's seats on here, custom-made seat, and the free mods were done, and the exhaust was opened up.
Okay, so no aftermarket exhaust?
No, no. It's a stock exhaust with the GYTR tip in it.
Okay. So Chaz, how long have you been riding this bike?
I've had this one 10 years.
And describe your off-road riding style.
Trail riding, like we were doing today. We're actually up in the Allegheny National Forest with family and friends and having a wonderful time.
Awesome.
It's a father-son weekend, so we've got our boys here with us too. So yep. It's been a really good time.
I'm a trail rider. I do like to rip on the street a little bit. Of the two of us, who do you think likes wheelies more?
You like wheelies more.
I do. I'm a little bit more of a wheelie fan. I probably throw it a little harder into the turns. I'm maybe a little bit more aggressive, but certainly not a super aggressive rider. I'm a trail rider, and I like to have a good time on the trail. So we did something here this weekend for the first time. After riding for the whole day, I threw a leg over the WR, which I've ridden before, but not since I got the DRZ. And Chaz, you had an opportunity for the first time to try this out on the trail. Which one of us should go first in terms of first observations? Okay, so
I'd like to defer to you on that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I actually think I've characterized this pretty good. The DRZ, everybody says it's got low end grunt, right? It's got grunt. Your bike has snort. Like this grunts and yours snorts. So the power on the WR hits like a hammer. There's no question about it. On the trail, there's a real question about how much of it is usable. Now, I will say, if you need to get over something, if you need to put that front wheel up over a puddle or up over a rock or something,
it's as quick as a thought.
Like you barely have to think about it. Whereas it requires a little bit of technique on the DRZ, right? And honestly, I think it's probably making me a little bit better rider. In terms of turn-in, your bike's a lot lighter than mine. It's at least 50 pounds lighter. It didn't really feel like it was lighter on the trail to me. Like, did it feel like you were carrying an extra 50 pounds of bike?
It feels taller. The DRZ definitely feels taller.
Yeah.
That might be a little bit of setup, softer seat and everything else.
Don't like my stock seat, do you?
No. Yeah. So it feels taller. Couple things that felt different. Remarkable power. The power, and I got to think about this. It's probably largely the way the power comes on has as much to do with more flywheel than anything else. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
But one of the things I noticed on the way back. I'm used to being able to chop the throttle on this, and it brings the front end down right away.
Yeah.
Very quick engine braking, different compression, and the DRZ would stay rolled on for a little bit.
Yeah, it continues to tractor a little bit.
Yeah, so there's less engine braking. Tomato, depends on what you're used to. I wasn't quite used to that, and so that was like, I got to thinking about it. I bet you there's more flywheel just keeping that motor spinning. It's interesting because, different suspension altogether. This felt stiffer.
Yeah, for sure.
It feels a lot stiffer. I felt a lot more, it feels very planted, very confident, but I felt a lot more of the trail chatter.
True, and this really did feel like it was secure to the trail a little bit better. My tires are practically brand new, and your rear is ready for replacement.
I needed to swap that out before this
So that
weekend.
might have had something to do with it. But the DRZ does definitely feel like it is more stable on the trail. Like it feels like it really has more of a connection to the ground.
Yeah, a little bit of that is what you're used to too.
Probably.
The plusher suspension, I felt like I'll just go ahead and hit stuff. That was one of the things I noticed. I'm not plowing through things with that. Like I would just hit it with this. I was like, okay, definitely the chop, you'd feel it more. That was one of the things I noticed. So it's a matter of what you're used to. The more I was on your bike, the more I got used to it. The more I was like, hey, you were going to swap back on the way back here. It's like, hey, I'm enjoying this. Mind if I ride it the last 2 miles back to camp? Just
now you wouldn't want to ride 100 miles on the highway on that seat, though.
No. No, I think my butt would probably divorce me and say, that's it, I'm not part of your body anymore.
So how much were you having to shift on the trail? Like, did it feel like you found a gear that worked for your speed and it did everything you needed?
This was the interesting thing, because we were riding with the kids between us. So we weren't going crazy. And on the twisty stuff, I went a long time where I never got out of first gear. Like it seemed to have plenty of room on top, and I'm like,
yeah, it does kind of have a tall first gear, even with one tooth down on the front. One thing that I like about one tooth down, and I really don't want to go another tooth down, is I feel like if I go another tooth down, I'm going to be constantly hunting between first and second. Right. Whereas if you're on twisty stuff, first gear is beautiful for that stuff.
Yeah, I didn't feel like you needed any lowering first. Yeah. You just slip the clutch if you need to and go.
Yeah.
It was very different. I enjoyed it. I definitely could see, spending more time on it. I definitely would change the seat out. I would get rid of the seat.
That's on the short list. Seat Concepts, if you're listening, I'd love a sponsorship.
Fishers. Yeah, if they hear this too. Though.
So we talked about handling. We talked about power. I hear a lot of people talk about the DRZ for a first motorcycle or a novice motorcyclist or a first-time off-road motorcyclist. It is tall. You made that observation before. What do you think about the controllability of the power, the availability of the power, the control of the handling? how it feels in terms of weight. Would you say that this is, assuming an adult, not a kid, but assuming an adult who maybe has a little bit of experience on a road bike, would you consider the DRZ a potential first off-road motorcycle?
If they had a little bit of something beforehand. It still has a lot of power. Actually, I was lagging back so I could do some tests on how that power came on. It was tremendous roll-on power.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the big, rip your face off, pull your arms out of their sockets. This has off the bottom, but it just kept on pulling all day long.
And just
So
FYI, recently turned over 1,000 miles on a DRZ, and it's starting to wake up a little bit. It was not quite this nice brand new, but it is really starting to wake up.
So you're really past the break-in period at this point.
Yeah, at this point, yeah.
Yeah. The low maintenance schedule is another thing. I think that's really neat.
That's what sold it. Like I'm a fan of the low tech, simple. I can poke and prod at it with a screwdriver and a wrench, and maybe I can do some of my own maintenance. You are a little bit more sophisticated of a motorcycle mechanic.
Yeah.
So, what's your maintenance schedule like on this?
It's very low. I've done very little with it. Mostly just trying to fix the wiring on the Baja Designs light kit that's on it. I got that finally straightened out. But
so
really done very little with the bike in the years that I've had it.
Oftentimes the guys at the KTMs or the WRs, they open up the manual and it has this maintenance schedule in hours, not miles, and they're like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? Would you say that those maintenance schedules are kind of assuming that you're going to be racing the bike? And if you're trail riding the bike the way that you are, is it more of a moderate maintenance schedule in your opinion?
I haven't followed it, I'll be honest with you. Now,
oil changes how often?
Oil changes, I don't get a whole lot of hours, and so they're pretty frequent. Every couple of rides, probably 4 or 5 rides for dumping oil. It's a cheap thing to just keep contaminants out. You're supposed to do like valve clearances, and everything I've read on these, people go in to do the valve clearances on them and they're not off. And so I've pretty much ridden the bike as far as mechanically, transmission, top end. I've done nothing to it, and other than keep that oil clean and clean air filters, general maintenance stuff, fresh tires.
You rebuilt the fork?
I did rebuild the forks over the winter, and I'm planning on sending the shock out this winter and have somebody else do it for me.
And once again, that's an 05 motorcycle. So,
Right.
and this is the first time that you've done that.
Yeah, it wasn't
in
bad.
2022. So what would you say to a first-time off-roader getting on the WR450?
Rethink your life plan. Make sure your life insurance is paid up. No, it's. I mean, if you've ridden, it's like any 450 motocross. This isn't motocross. It's a enduro bike, but it's on that platform. Anything that you would ride, you don't need a 450 right off the bat.
So the way I would describe it, the consequences of bad decisions, bad judgment, and maybe a loss of total control can be much, much more catastrophic on this than this.
Yeah.
Mine's a good bit more forgiving than that.
Oh my.
Whiskey throttle on mine is probably not going to kill you. It might scare you.
Right.
Whiskey throttle on yours could launch you into the woods.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it's just simply,
Do you know anybody who's been launched into the woods because they weren't quite ready for the power delivery of your WR?
No, but the old YZ I had, yes.
Well, actually, my brother-in-law, your friend, had a little problem with the berm. He went flying.
Oh no.
A little. Oh, you didn't see that?
No.
Yeah, he was not ready for the power delivery of your bike, and he just flew right over it.
Oh my.
Anything else that you'd like to say in comparison between these two?
Yeah, they're great bikes. They're different personalities. If you're out on the trail, if you can pick one of these up, especially like I didn't find somebody else plated it before I got it. That's just, I've had a lot of fun with it. I'm not going to get rid of it because it would cost me a lot of money to replace it. Just keep maintaining it. And probably do a top end at some point in time, but I haven't messed with it yet. Both bikes are great. I enjoyed finally getting on this for a little bit of time, and I wouldn't mind having one of those too.
Okay, so the WR450f. What do you love about it? What do you hate about it?
Power and suspension.
Suspension's very nice.
It's
Power's
plush.
amazing.
It is a handful on the tighter trails. We did a very tight trail today, and I have an old XT225 sitting off camera right now, and I was thinking to myself that I would have done better on that bike, just the tightness.
On the WR, when you're on really slow technical trails, the difference between this and this on the throttle can be remarkably different. Once again, the DRZ is much more forgiving in that.
Yeah, I definitely want to drop the oil when I get back. I had to abuse the clutch quite a bit. I probably would have abused the clutch on that too,
probably,
but not as much. It's a little smoother down on the bottom, although we were doing some pretty big rock and some logs, mud-covered logs, not fun. Got stuck there. That was interesting. So it's like if you know you're using the clutch, get the oil out of it. Nothing I truly hate about the bike. I've had it for a long time, and I've never felt like, gee, I want rid of this thing. I'd rather have something else every time I think about maybe that's more than I need. I get on it, puts a big smile on my face. I want to keep that. I've nothing that I truly hate about it. I did have an issue with the stock seat. I was riding down the road on the pavement, and just riding around on the pavement with the stock seat, the vibration with the knobby tire, I wound up with a broken tailbone.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's
no problem since you put the Fisher custom seat
on?
on?
Well, the Fisher custom seat got ordered because I wanted to be able to ride my bike, and there was no way I was going to be able to do that with a broken tailbone on the stock seat that was like vinyl strapped over a 2x4. It was horrible.
All right, DRZ, love it about it, hate about it. I love the available power, but usable power. I could do just about anything on this as I could on that, but instead of the explosive power delivery, you kind of have to work it a little bit to get it to perform. You throw it into the corners a little bit more.
It's more tractable.
Yeah, it is. It's more controllable, more tractable. I actually like the really tall stance. I think it's really easy to get into narrow ruts, and it just feels very comfortable for me. So I like being up like that. The suspension is phenomenal. It's set up for me, works very well for me. I'm not crazy about the position of the handlebars down here. I definitely want to rise those up a little bit.
That was something we discussed about today. There's a set
when
of
I'm
risers
standing
on
up,
here.
you just kind of have to lean over a little bit, and I don't want to do that. I want to be able to stand up a little bit more vertically.
And like we talked about, that kind of adds to the tall feeling of the bike. Your hands are low, but your body's high.
Yeah.
And so, that would be, just maybe a half-inch would be nice. I agree with you on that.
And what can I say? It's a brand new bike, so it shifts beautifully. The clutch is perfect and flawless. I'd like to see a little bit more, I guess what would you call it? A little bit more snap to the throttle. I understand there's a couple of mods that can help you to do that. The pumper carb's a big one. I'm excited about maybe throwing Electron on it at some point.
And what was the other brand that was similar?
The Smart Carb is another one. So, any planned modifications or anything for this, or just keep on keeping on?
Like I said, just get the shock rebuilt. It needs it, and it's not leaking or anything. But the rubber bottom out stopper is showing signs of wear. So it's like, it's due. Did the forks do the shock? Did the forks myself. I think there's a little bit more to doing the shock, so I'm just going to send that out. It can be done pretty economically. I think I'm going to send it down to Pro Action Suspension. So
awesome.
We talked about that with a couple bikes.
All right. Well, hey, I hope this was useful for you. One of the things that I noticed when I was shopping for my DRZ, that there were not a lot of really good comparisons between the WR and the DRZ. Some people were given a lot of opinions that just didn't have a lot of direct comparison. So I hope this is helpful for you if you've been looking between the two different bikes, and I hope it was entertaining. In the meantime, I'm Chris. This is Chaz. Thanks very much for watching.
Thank you. Out with the boys here, okay?
All right.
Get her off, Justin. We're taking 5. Get a water break.
No, just the three of us.
Okay.